Peach Pundit, the podcast, is a conversation filled with the personal opinions of the people who are participating. Any view or opinion expressed belongs only to the person who expressed it and not with anyone with whom that person is professionally affiliated. It's the moment you've been waiting for all week long. Coming back for another Peach Pundit, the podcast. My name is Scott Turner, joined tonight by my great friend who's always smiling. He's the orange juice to my Lafroig, Buzz Brockway. How are you, Buzz?
I'm good, Scott. How are you doing?
It's good to see you. It's good to see you. We talked last week a little bit about the Speedway Classic Major League Baseball game they held in Bristol.
Yes.
And I told the audience how I was going to head up there.
Yeah.
But you didn't tell me till today. During that whole time, you were laid up in the hospital.
Well, I don't want to make a big long story about it, but I was having some back pain. It got excruciating last Friday night, and I thought I've got no choice. I had my wife take me over to the emergency room, Northside Gwinnett, and yada yada yada. Turns out it was my gallbladder, and it was blocked, and they had to remove it. So
you say that so casually. Like,
I'm down a gallbladder. So
you're down one gallbladder and plus stitches.
And my appendix was taken out 20 years ago. So I've lost 2 organs. I really don't want to lose any more.
That's one heck of a weight loss program you're on there, Buzz. I don't recommend it.
No. But I'm doing fine. I mean, I'm doing fine. I'm still on kind of a liquid diet, and I'll probably ease off of that over the next few days into a mushy diet. And then, we'll see. We'll take it slowly. But
did you get to watch some of the game while you're in the hospital?
Well, yes. So yeah, I was watching it, and I thought if it hadn't rained, I think it would have just been a fantastic experience for Major League Baseball, for the Braves, for the Reds, for all the people who were there. Because I thought Fox's coverage of it was fun. They were having fun with it. It was exciting.
The pregame festivities were a lot of fun. Well, yeah, I used it as an opportunity. I played baseball until I was about 35, 36 years old with a group of guys here in Atlanta. The group of guys I used to play with were some of my closest friends, and I am terrible about staying in touch. And I used it as an opportunity to reconnect with some of them. And so we made a road trip out of it. And we get up there. Our plan was to watch the game. After the game, drive a little ways back towards Atlanta, get an Airbnb. We had reserved an Airbnb in Knoxville, which is almost 2 hours away from the stadium, and come home, putz around, maybe have breakfast together Sunday morning and just take it easy getting back. And that obviously got totally poo-pooed on by the rain.
Right.
And it wasn't the MLB's fault that it rained, obviously. But there were some things that happened during the game that were disappointing. Number one, the merchandise sold out before we even walked in the stadium. We got there hours early.
Well, there were more people than they thought, right? It ended up being over 90,000.
But we were hours before first pitch, and the only thing left in the merchandise shack was kids' socks. But the things that they did to sort of merge the NASCAR baseball cultures was fun, like having the players on the back of the pickup trucks running a lap around the track, and then the announcement using the pit stop things, and that was all cool. And we were sitting in left center field there in the Richard Petty Terrace, and from where we were sitting, we could see Derek Jeter, Big Papi, and Alex Rodriguez doing the live broadcast from our seats. They were just maybe 100 feet away from where we were sitting.
Wow.
That was cool. But
now could you see the game? I mean, because there's the infield, and there's the track, and then there's the stands. Could you?
From where we were, I had a great view of the field. If a ball had been hit the straightaway center, I would have been behind the batter's eye, so I wouldn't have been able to see if the ball hit the wall or what was happening in that area. And I was really far away. I think our seats were something like 700 feet away from home plate. It seemed like a great opportunity when the game started, except the rain made the ball invisible from where I was. I literally could not tell you where the pitch was. I could see the pitcher wind up and I could see his motion, but I couldn't see the ball leave his hand. I couldn't see the ball hit the bat. And all I could do is watch the players react and move around the field to see what was happening in the 1+ innings that they played. And they didn't start until 9:40. Once the tarp went on at that point, we knew they were calling it. It was a matter of, what time are we coming back tomorrow?
Right.
So we had to drive 2 hours plus. Getting out of the place was a nightmare. The traffic control was just absolutely, it took us way out of the way to get to the interstate. We didn't get back to our Airbnb until 2 a.m.
Oh.
So get up kind of early to get back to the field because we got another 2-hour drive back up there. And then once we got there, it was empty. It was an hour to play, and there's maybe 5,000 people there. I think half the people came back. Maybe I think they'd be generous to say half the people came back. But we moved over to the first base side, and we were so close we could hear the umpire calling balls and strikes at that point.
Wow!
And that was cool. So, but it was sunny. And I didn't bring sunscreen because I was going to a night game. But all in all, I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah. I mean, I hope MLB, I mean, a lot of the sports like these sort of, specialty events, and fans seem to like them. So I hope MLB tries it again.
Somewhere, yeah. I mean, they always do something. Around this time of year, they announce something. They did the Field of Dreams game. Last year, they're at Rickwood. It was a historic Negro Leagues
place,
field in Alabama. All very cool concepts. I bought my tickets for this back in December. I was so excited for it. So I'm glad I went, but the town of Bristol is really set up for NASCAR. It's not set up for baseball. Neither is that stadium. Not a great venue to watch a game, but fun as a one-off.
But on TV, it looked really, really cool. So we'll see. We'll see what they do.
So tonight's podcast is pretty packed. We got Geoff Duncan's finally pulled the pin on the grenade. We're going to talk about that and all the different dominoes that's going to create. We have a Frostopus update for you. We're wondering if Marjorie Taylor Greene is having her Zell Miller moment. And we're going to fill you in on some arguments I have with people on Facebook about tariffs. And if you haven't noticed it, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'm wearing "You Can't Spell Tariffs Without FFS." You can get that shirt in the shop at peachpundit.com. We're going to pay some bills. We'll be right back.
Peach Pundit has an anonymous Patreon who would like to invite you to learn more about the Alzheimer's Association. The Alzheimer's Association leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia by accelerating global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and maximizing quality care and support. No one should fight Alzheimer's alone. With your help, no one will. Learn more on their website, alz.org.
Americans for Prosperity Georgia champions economic freedom and individual liberty across the state. They advocate for lower taxes, less government, and regulatory reform while mobilizing citizens to engage the legislative process. Beyond economic issues, AFP Georgia is committed to more choice in K-12 education for all students and removing government barriers in healthcare like Certificate of Need. If you want to learn more about our friends at Americans for Prosperity, go to ga.americansforprosperity.org. Thank you to AFP and all of our Patreons for supporting the podcast. It's voluntary. If you too would like to join them as a Patreon, we'll add you to the list of people who rock. You can do that by heading on over to patreon.com/peachpundit. Sign up for one of those tiers starting at just $5. You can join the Pete Hegseth inspired Peach Pundit Signal chat, which has people talking in there every single day. There's something going on in there. Hopefully you can join us. We welcome today our newest Patreon, Lawton Sack. Thank you, Lawton, for signing up, and hopefully you'll have some fun in the chat as well. Buzz.
Yes.
I have said on this podcast multiple times, I don't want to talk about Geoff Duncan anymore. You've heard me say that, right?
Yes.
But Geoff Duncan really wants me to talk about him, not just me, but apparently everybody. Because Geoff wrote a piece for the AJC this week announcing that he has officially decided to become a Democrat. And he went back and said that his journey towards becoming a Democrat started when you and I were serving with him in the House of Representatives.
Yes.
Does that make sense to you?
No.
Tell me why.
Well, I mean, look, Geoff has always been very conscious of how he messages things, and always been a guy to try to build bridges and bring people together. And so he's not been, a bomb thrower, right? That doesn't make you a Democrat. That doesn't make you a moderate. In the past, I've been accused of being a moderate because I was kind of like Geoff and moderate in tone and always trying to, approach things that way. That doesn't make you a moderate. And so, with all due respect to my friend Geoff, that seemed like a bit of a stretch to me, that the process started.
See, this is the difference between Buzz Brockway
years ago
and Scott Turner on full display. Buzz is like, that's a bit of a stretch. That's a bold-faced lie. That's a bold-faced lie.
I mean, because it's his name's been floated out there as a potential candidate for governor on the Democratic side. When I read that, I thought that is an attempt to tell Georgia Democrats, I've been one of you for a while. And, we can explore that further, but I don't
think
know
Democrats
that
are going to buy that lie.
Well, I thought of this. Actually, a few weeks ago, I mentioned Sonny Perdue switch parties and then ran for governor, but I missed a crucial step in that process that a listener and a friend texted me to remind me of. Sonny Perdue switched parties and ran for state senate again as a Republican, and then won, and then ran for governor. So there was a step in there. You might remember a gentleman from the Athens area named Doug McKillop. Doug, good guy. I like Doug.
He apparently is running for state senate.
Yes, he's running again. Was a Democrat, got elected to a Democratic leadership position, became a Christian, switched parties in midterm, and
one
ran.
Little detail to add there: it was at a time when the state was trending way red.
Yes,
and an explosive manner.
Well, I mentioned that to say because I think, well, I know Doug's conversion to Christianity was genuine.
Mm-hmm.
He then carried at the time was the most pro-life piece of legislation that Georgia had ever seen. But voters in his district just didn't buy it, didn't buy the switch from Democrat to Republican. And he was defeated by our pal, Regina Quick. But I bring that up to say voters are kind of skeptical of guys who just switch and then run for a higher office like that, right? Sonny Perdue pulled it off. But he didn't switch parties and then run for governor. As I mentioned, I forgot that step. He switched parties, ran for re-election, then ran for governor. So, I say all that to say, to me, that portion of Geoff's article was about laying the groundwork to run for governor, to try to tell Democrats, I've been one of you for a while. I don't know that they're going to buy it.
I don't know if they will or not. I will say I did have one Democrat interact with me on Twitter because I tweeted after the news broke that I felt betrayed. And I pointed out that it's my job and my role to say what other people are thinking. And so, if I feel this way, other people feel this way too. They're just not going to tell you. And I got a interaction out of a Democratic member of the House of Representatives saying, well, he switched, his heart switched afterwards. But in his piece, he did not say that his heart switched afterwards. He said, and this is a lie. And I know this to be a lie because the entire time he was in the House, he was unapologetically conservative, and that was his brand. And that's how he ran and defeated David Shafer for the nomination to become. In his piece, also invoked the Bible. And he said that you cannot, essentially, I'm going to paraphrase, but essentially, you cannot be a Republican and love your neighbor.
Well, in fairness to Geoff, what he's really said was it's easier to love your neighbor as a Democrat than as a Republican.
Right. Right.
Which I disagree with.
Yeah, I disagree with that too, wholeheartedly. But what he said was the best way to love your neighbor is through robust public policy.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you something. Okay. I don't know if I've heard something more heretical in Georgia politics than the best way to live out the gospel and the model of Jesus Christ is to use the government as the instrument to love your neighbor.
Well, it's been there is a Christian left, just like there's a Christian right.
Sure.
And that has been something the Christian left has said for a long time. And I was disappointed to see Geoff parrot that because Geoff used to preach, and I'm going to mess it up, but he would always talk about the 4 C's. Churches, communities, charities, and corporations all need to work together to address society's problems, and that they were better at taking the lead on many of these issues than the government. Now, that's not to say the government doesn't play a role; it certainly does, but that's not a cry. Geoff's 4 C's are not a cry for big government.
No, it's getting government out of the way, which is wholly within the ideology of the right and Republicans. We don't just say these things. We do them. It's why you see so many Republicans with huge giving charitably on their tax returns whenever they run for office. It's like, I didn't know I was going to run for office here on my tax returns. Oh, I gave 10% of my income to churches and other charities that I cared about, sometimes more. And all this continues to me to show one thing, that Geoff really is probably mad that he didn't run for re-election because he saw other Republicans. He saw the most popular person in Georgia political history, probably, and Brian Kemp, at least in modern times, unequivocally in modern times, stand up to the president and win. He saw somebody who's less savvy, less appealing, less charismatic in Brad Raffensperger do the same thing and win re-election. Geoff decided the risk of losing was too great and he walked away. And he gave up his bird in hand. And I think he probably kicks himself all the time for that decision. And this is his only way back. He's never going to earn a win in a Republican primary in this state or anywhere else. The party went so far as to kick him out officially. So
it's still ridiculous.
It is
nevertheless.
I mean, still ridiculous. But that being said, he knew he was never going to be in public office again as a Republican. And I think he's trying to become a chameleon, and he's retconned his narrative. He's trying to say now, oh, this is the way I felt the whole time. Please vote for me, Democrat. Please be stupid enough to buy my lies. Tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you won't be surprised that I took a different tactic.
Of course.
Look, Geoff's a friend. I still consider him a friend. I disagree with my friend.
And I quote Stranger Things, friends don't lie.
Well, friends sometimes do. But look, I still consider Geoff a friend, and I'll always, for my part, consider Geoff a friend. I look at it differently, and here's why. Geoff is hearing from Democrats who are looking around their party, and there are plenty of Democrats who I know some. I go to church with some who look at the left and they look at their party and they say, I don't like that. I don't like the direction that the leadership of this party is taking them. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not down with the woke of the wokest of the woke. I'm not, I don't want these things forced down people's throats. And they're looking around for somebody to help them. And they are reaching out to Geoff. And they're contacting him. And they're saying, hey, you sound like a reasonable guy. You're not welcome in that other party anymore. Come on. Geoff very much believes in his ability to communicate to people and win people over through logic and discussion and working with them. And plenty of politicians have that. If you want to call it ego, that's fine. But plenty of politicians have that thought. And so I think Geoff thinks that, and there are areas of agreement that I have with him, and you probably would too, that politics is screwed up right now. Both parties are screwed up. Both parties have big problems. In Geoff's mind, the Republican Party is a lost cause. Maybe, as he wrote in an article a few weeks back, maybe, instead of GOP 2.0, we have Dem 2.0. And that's, if he runs, that's what he's trying here. I have said publicly, I worry about this because for a couple of reasons. I think if he runs, he is going to get shouted down by the far left activists that run the party. He is going to he's going to have a really hard time raising money because all the energy and the money are with the far left in the Democratic Party.
So he's traded one circus for a different circus. It's a different set of elephants. It's a different tent, but it's still a show.
Yeah.
It's still performative.
And I worry that the message, whatever the message is that he wants to get out there, it won't be heard because he will be shouted down.
So and
it'll be drilled.
Enter Michael Thurmond, who just announced today that he's running for governor, seeking the Democratic nomination. And he fits all of the category check boxes that Geoff Duncan would have, only he's sincere and has a track record of being a Democrat. Has Michael Thurmond filled Geoff Duncan's lane for the Democratic nomination?
He possibly has, because Thurmond's been around a long time. That's who he's been his whole career.
So tell us a little bit more about who Michael Thurmond is.
Yeah, so Michael Thurmond, years and years ago, was the labor commissioner of the state of Georgia. He then was asked to step in at a moment of crisis in DeKalb County Public Schools and act as their superintendent and try to right the ship, which he did. It's not a great school system, but he put the fires out and restored order. Then he ran for election as DeKalb County CEO. And by all accounts, you didn't see, let's just contrast his time as DeKalb CEO with his predecessor of Vernon Jones. There was no chaos and fighting and threats of lawsuits and weird, bizarre, crazy stuff happening. No menage a trois as an excuse to get out of a rape charge. None of that stuff. So Michael Thurmond, by all accounts, is a respectable man. I've met him once or twice, certainly not saying we're friends, but I've observed his political career for a long time. He's a middle-of-the-road Democrat, and his announcement used the words like, I want to build bridges. It's time to get away from the hyper-partisanship. Kind of GOP 2.0 language, right? Let's talk about things that really matter to Georgians. So, as I said in the Peach Pundit post, about the news of Thurmond's announcement, can a guy like that win in this really angry time? I don't know, but kudos to him for being out there. And I do think that for Geoff, the only thing that could undermine Thurmond occupying the kind of lane that Geoff wants to occupy in the Democratic Party is that Thurmond's getting a little older. He's been around a long time. Do Democrats view him as the past? In the minds of rank and file Democrats, has Michael Thurmond's day passed? And that I don't know. Democrats will have to answer that question.
I think if there's one difference I could just point out that I think will highlight how much more support Thurmond will get within Democrats. Now, I'm not a Democrat. Jason Pye likes to remind everybody I unapologetically play for Team Red. But I talk to Democrats. I have Democratic friends. And if I had to point to one thing, it's going to be the photo of Geoff Duncan standing next to Brian Kemp when Brian Kemp signed the heartbeat bill into law. Michael Thurmond's not going to have that on his resume when he runs for the Democratic nomination.
Right.
Geoff is.
Yes.
And I don't know, have you talked to Geoff? I'm not going to bother reaching out to Geoff. I very publicly texted Geoff. And
not since this article, but we had breakfast recently, and I don't want to divulge the.
Is he still pro-life?
Person? Yes.
Well, don't even bother running. That would be my advice. You're going to waste a whole bunch of people's time, money. You're going to put your family through it. You just don't do it. You're unelectable. They're not going to nominate you. That would be, not that he's ever taken advice from me, but that would be my advice. And because I've given that advice, I've just guaranteed that Geoff Duncan is going to seek the Democratic nomination for Democratic
well, let me
Party.
say this. I think Republicans ought not underestimate Michael Thurmond. Okay, so I have thought for a long time that
he
Michael
scares me
Thurmond
way
is
more than Stacey Abrams.
He's the kind of guy that Democrats should have nominated years ago.
Yep. Or against Kemp the first time.
Yeah, the last couple cycles.
Last time, though, he was CEO of DeKalb County. I think he started in 2017. So he already had a job. He didn't need one. And I don't think he would have won then either.
But understand the importance. DeKalb County, next to Fulton, is the largest base of Democratic voters in the state of Georgia.
Sure.
And if he's
there are more people in
DeKalb
County than some states in this country.
Yes. And that automatically puts Michael Thurmond in the hunt. He's still got to go out and raise the money. He's got to get Democrats in Fulton and Gwinnett and Cobb and everywhere else to rally to his cause too. But it puts him in the game.
When we come back, how is David Shafer connected to the Frostopus? We'll get into it. Stay right there.
Conservatives Concerned is a network of political and social conservatives who question the alignment of capital punishment with conservative principles and values. Our programs include educating conservatives about the failed death penalty system and mobilizing them to bring about its end. We come to this issue for a variety of reasons. Some believe that small government and the death penalty don't go together, especially when we compare the high costs of capital punishment to life without possibility of release. Some don't trust the state to get it right. We already know that some innocent people have been sentenced to death, and for others, it may already be too late. Some believe that the death penalty contradicts our values about protecting life. Find out more at conservativesconcerned.org.
Golden Retriever Rescue of Atlanta, GRRA, is an all-volunteer, tax-deductible charitable organization. They are dedicated to providing veterinary care, comprehensive evaluation, and foster and adoptive homes to golden and Labrador retrievers who are abandoned, mistreated, neglected, or left in shelters throughout Georgia. We encourage you to visit their website grra.com and help connect people and dogs that need each other in their lives. You truly can make this world a better place by helping find homes of gold for these golden-hearted pups.
Over the weekend, Jeff ICYMI at the Associated Press ran a story. We're going to link to it in the post that comes along with this podcast on the blog. And here's the money paragraph. I'm going to read it. A company run by Shafer, Springwood Capital, says in a July 10th lawsuit that it lost $200,000 invested in First Liberty. Its attorney, Brent Herron, said the company is one of hundreds of defrauded investors. Herron declined to confirm Shafer owns the company, but financial disclosures show Shafer in 2017 owned at least part of Springwood Capital's parent company. Josh McCoon, the current Republican Party chairman, who is also an attorney, this is me adding to this context to this, who received $4,500 in Frost donations for his own campaign, handled Springwood Capital's incorporation papers. McCoon said he didn't lose any money. Wow. Is there any other reaction? Is David Shafer was an investor who got defrauded by the Frosts? Apparently. Well, we'll put apparently in there, according to Jeff ICYMI of the AP.
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows, we were talking beforehand, Scott. I mean, the Frosts were going to get money from anybody.
Let's break that down because we know, first of all, we know that Josh McCoon and David Shafer are like best friends. If you were to ask either one of them who their best friend was, Josh McCoon would definitely say David Shafer. I don't know if David Shafer knows what a friend is, now that I think about it. But I think Josh would say David Shafer is his best friend. we know they're close. We also know that the Frosts love themselves some David Shafer, and they love themselves some Josh McCoon. We know that. So they're sort of like 3 points in a triangle, and it doesn't matter if they're in close coordination now or not. We know that they orbited in the same circles, and that they had a mutual admiration society between the three of them. And now we're learning that Shafer's company, or at least one that he owned at some point in time, was one of the investors. The takeaway for me is the Frosts were so nefarious, so devious, that people they considered genuine friends were not off of the target list to take their money, steal it from them so that they could drive an Aston Martin and have a fancy watch and take their family on vacations at Kennebunkport. Like, how evil can you be to approach your friends like this and say, give me your money, I'm going to make you rich, and then just walk away with it?
I'm reminded of a proverb. I'll probably butcher it, but it's he who seeks to become suddenly wealthy will become suddenly poor. Words to that effect. And that's what's happened here. That they were just hoovering up as much money from as many people as they could possibly find. And Scott, as you eloquently pointed out, they didn't care if you were friends or not. They were going to take your money under the guise of making you fabulously wealthy with these ridiculously high returns. And it all came crashing down. The house of cards all came crashing down. And
they're just a lack of conscience.
Yeah.
It's stunning. Every new revelation renews just how much I'm stunned by the whole thing. Like, you targeted some of your closest friends for this.
Yeah.
Oh my
Scott,
God.
I know you hear from probably a lot more people than I hear from, but I hear from people, and I feel the same way as these people. The more this story goes on, the angrier I get.
Yes.
For a number of reasons. One of which is they use their faith as leverage over people to get them to invest. They use their conservative principles to leverage people. That just really angers me. I don't know. I'm hearing from people who are getting more and more angry.
Yeah, I don't know how you're not getting more and more angry, especially if you were one of the people who were snookered. David Shafer and I are never going to be friends, right? I can feel empathy for him in this, though, and in a lot of ways sympathy, because when Cinco told me what their plan was to help people, I thought that was really noble, and he totally fooled me. Mm-hmm. I didn't invest any money, and I didn't send them anybody to invest. They never asked me to invest. They were asking me for people to make loans too. And I just thought it was a really noble thing, especially since I knew them to profess Christ as their Lord and Savior. So that does just add fuel to the fire of anger, because they were using the Lord's name in vain. That's way worse than saying GD or OMG or whatever. Well, look, I know that you guys, a lot of you started listening to this podcast as a result of our coverage of the Frostopus, but that's the only update we have this week.
Yes.
There will be more.
I think we can assume that, I believe is this the first article that Geoff Amy has written about it?
No, Ami has written several things about it, but this was the one. This was the first one where he broke something completely new.
So you've got him, you've got the folks at the AJC,
and you have
several different reporters at the AJC. You've got the Bulldog, Scott Turner. A lot of folks digging into this, pulling on different threads, and we're just going to continue to learn more. And so, brace yourself.
There's more coming.
Think you're going to find, yes,
there's more coming.
Other shoes to drop.
Yeah, we talked earlier in the podcast about Geoff Duncan leaving the GOP. Well, he was kicked out, but now he's officially left and decided to sign up with the other party. But it looks like Marjorie Taylor Greene is having a Zell Miller moment of her own. In a new interview with the Daily Mail, Georgia's firebrand let loose on her own party, saying, quote, "I don't know if the Republican Party is leaving me or if I'm kind of not relating to the Republican Party anymore," end quote. It felt a lot like Zell Miller to me. Greene went on to accuse the GOP leadership of abandoning the America First agenda. turning its back on working Americans and, in her words, handling the reins back to the good old boys club. Here's what she said. The Republican Party has become the good old boys club again. That's who's in control. They're the ones running the place, and they don't care about America first. They don't care about the base. From the article, quoting now, the 51-year-old lawmaker wants to stop foreign aid, continue to use Doge to shave down government expenditures and waste, stop adding to the national debt, and be on the lookout for inflation. Like, quote, like what happened to all those issues? You know that I don't know what the hell happened with the Republican Party. I really don't. But I'll tell you one thing, the course that it's on, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And I just don't care anymore, she said, sounding frustrated. I will remind this audience, this is the same member of Congress who described H.R. 276, which is also known as the Gulf of America Act of 2025, as, and I'm quoting, one of the most important things we can do this Congress. So she's pushing bills with little party support, opposing military aid to both Ukraine and Israel, calling the Gaza conflict genocide.
Yeah.
And even calling out Speaker Mike Johnson directly, saying, I'm not afraid of Mike Johnson at all. This is on the heels of her announcement she would not be seeking higher office. So, Buzz, is this a full-blown ideological split? Is it just Marjorie being Marjorie? Is she voicing something that a chunk of the base is already feeling? Or is it something else?
I think it's a couple of things, but I think it stems from after she said, I'm not running for Senate. We heard stories that President Trump showed her polling showing that, sure, she's likely to win the Republican nomination, but she'd get creamed in the general by John Ossoff. By John Ossoff. I imagine I would not be shocked at all if Trump or somebody who she respects and would listen to showed her the same sort of thing in a race for governor, a potential race for governor, because the same thing would happen, right? She would lose to Michael Thurmond or Keisha Lance Bottoms or whoever.
She wouldn't lose against Keisha Lance Bottoms. I think she wins Keisha Lance Bottoms, but I don't think she gets the nomination either. I think Burt Jones is still the favorite, even with her in the race.
Well, and that could be a twist on it that she was, look, you'll split the MAGA coalition in half, and rhinos will slip in there like Chris Carr and
Brad Raffensperger,
or Brad Raffensperger.
But they're splitting the non-MAGA section themselves.
Yes. So I imagine, I think this stems from that. Now, I mean, look, I think that's going on, but I also think she has expressed frustration before, prior to all this stuff about the Senate and the governor's race, that people weren't fighting as hard as they should fight for Donald Trump. But this is what gets to my general frustration about people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. She is a member of Congress. She could draft a bill. She could draft bills tomorrow that address each of the things on the list that you just mentioned.
Yes,
she can do something about.
Yes,
in fact, she chairs a Doge subcommittee.
Amen, Brother Buzz.
Where are the hearings?
Praise the Lord.
Where are the hearings identifying government waste and doing all the Doge stuff?
Drag some people in for hearings, Marjorie.
Yes.
Stop talking, start doing.
Right. She can actually do stuff about that. And maybe they won't pass or whatever, but at least she can say, I'm doing it.
That's a great take, Buzz.
Now, look, my last thing, Scott, and this, I would not be surprised. She's been stiffed for Senate and stiffed for governor. When are we going to start hearing about Marjorie 2028 as the true heir to the MAGA mantle?
President?
Not that little wimpy Vice President J.D. Vance. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the true heir to Donald Trump. When are we going to start hearing that kind of talk?
Boy. Well, my hope is never. But let me paint a photo for you just real quick. How about an AOC versus MTG showdown for the presidency?
It could happen.
Look, 10 years ago, if you told me Donald Trump was going to be president of the United States,
right,
that Geoff Duncan was going to be a Democrat, and that Brad Raffensperger, who was the first Republican to endorse Donald Trump in Georgia, would be publicly fighting him all the time, I would have told you you're nuts. So an AOC versus MTG showdown for the White House seems perfectly in line with the idiocracy that we live in today.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
I don't want that to happen, but I just spoke it into existence. I'm glad. I think what really happened here is she is flailing around because she doesn't have the support of the people that she has supported, because they recognize that the number one thing that's important to donors is that the candidate they support can win, and she can't. And we all know that she can't win. She can win a primary and she can win a general when she's the richest person on the ticket and she can buy the seat, which she did. She bought her congressional seat when other people struggled to raise money. She made the runoff and she won the runoff. Now she's talking about, well, it's men. Men are my problem. Always remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene is just minutes away from putting on a pink knitted hat.
Yes.
And we talk about how the right goes so far right, it comes around to the left. She's adopting all of Code Pink's talking points. But I think that this reaction is her emotional reaction to the fact that she's been told there are other people we would like to support rather than you, and it has hurt her feelings. And now she's threatening to take her ball and go home, or take her 7 million Twitter followers and go start something new instead of leaning into the work. Mm-hmm. You talk about inflation, but you introduced the bill to rename the Gulf of America. You chair a subcommittee that is focused on the issue that you're passionate about, reducing government spending. Where are the hearings? Let us know. We'll publicize them for you.
Right. Where are the bills flowing out of that?
If you were a serious lawmaker,
cut that.
You would identify an issue that you think is a problem, and you would present a solution. All I'm hearing right now out of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I don't take this the wrong way because she's a woman and she's very sensitive about the man versus woman thing, but all I hear is a bunch of bitching. If she was a man, I'd say the same thing. That's all I'm hearing out of her. I'm not hearing any solutions she's saying that student loan debt's a problem, housing's a problem, inflation's a problem, spending's a problem. Go create the legislation to fix the problem. You have that job, you have that power, you have that authority. We don't see you doing it. And also, by the way, I dare you to run for governor this time. I dare you to get in that Senate race this time. You think you can go raise up scary amounts of money? Yeah, I don't think so. I dare you. I dare you.
She hasn't used the term unbossed yet, so that's a relief. But,
oh boy. So, Buzz, I have been saying for a long time that tariffs are a problem.
Yes.
And I get told by people on Facebook that every time I post something about tariffs being a negative and showing that tariffs are starting to show up in our economy, that I just have Trump derangement syndrome, which is really weird because I also have a good authority. I play for Team Red. So I want to share with the audience something that really touched me. And I retweeted Eric Erickson, our friend Eric, because I regret I have but one retweet to offer this tweet. And Eric wrote this week, once you've made the party the ideology or the idol, taste is subsumed. Ideas are subsumed. You think you are thinking for yourself, but you do not do so by outsourcing your judgment to shape your thinking to those whose tribal loyalties in the present are beyond question. This is why dissent is so necessary. We see such dangerous groupthink festering on the left as the hive mind of American political press, intelligentsia, the academy, pop culture, etc., all lead the left off the cliff of anti-Semitism, embracing resentment, and the environmental death cult, etc. It is why they are headed towards violence. On our side, we've abandoned a century of sound economic thinking to scratch an itch from the 1950s Democratic Party, which had been thoroughly infiltrated by socialists and communists. We have abandoned the careful and reasoned judgment of voices from history for the voices of the here and now, telling us the ideas we long held no longer matter because reasons. Ford Motor Company makes more cars in the United States than any other manufacturer. Ford puts the first in America first. The result? Ford is being penalized through tariffs. Thanks to President Trump's negotiated tariffs with Japan, South Korea, and Europe, it is now cheaper to make a car in Japan and import it into the United States than it is for Ford to make a car in the United States. Why? Because there is now a 15% tariff on imports from Japan, but Ford must pay a 50% tariff on aluminum and steel, plus tariffs on copper and other items. American industry does not produce enough aluminum for Ford, so it must be imported for Ford to build cars in the United States. The company producing its cars domestically is now at a competitive disadvantage to the Japanese, South Korean, and European vehicle manufacturers, but it's not just Ford. I posted this week, one of my favorite economists that I follow is out of the American Enterprise Institute, a guy named Scot. He noted that lumber futures hit their highest price in 3 years Friday, despite a home building slump and a lackluster remodeling market. The wood demand is tepid, so there's no demand, but prices continue to go up. He said traders are pricing in dramatically higher duties on lumber imports from Canada. And I took the opportunity to be really snarky because I've been arguing for weeks with people about tariffs, and this is what I wrote. Only people who don't understand basic economics think tariffs are a good thing. Only people who don't understand that economics is a long play and things take time to see the damage will point to today's economic data and say these tariffs are great. Only people who don't understand economics will try to argue with me in the comments.
And people tried to argue with you. So
lots of people, lots of people. Among them, one of my favorite radio hosts. I just want to point this out because, again, I live in this world where I get told I have Trump derangement syndrome, or I'm just saying something because I play for Team Red. Tim Bryant from Athens, who I think is funny and topical, and I love listening to him when I get a chance to listen to him. I was sad when he lost his gig in Athens. I was really happy when he got picked up in Gainesville. I'm glad he's still on the radio. But he is among these folks who are sort of critical of me for being critical. And he said, I can't decide if you're afraid President Trump's trade policies won't work or if you're afraid they will. In any event, it's bizarre to the point of being un-American to hold the view that other countries are free to impose tariffs on us, but it's somehow detrimental for us to reciprocate. Now, look, you can do a lot of things. You're not calling me un-American. And it's well established, when you slap me, I don't turn the other cheek. I just don't. So I responded to Tim and I said, as to your concerns, that being if I was afraid that they would fail or that I wanted them to fail, I told him, I'm afraid they'll fail. But I find it bizarre that we're the largest, most successful economy in the history of the world, and we're rushing to adopt the economic policies of government intervention into the marketplace that hold the rest of the world back. We've maintained our economic power by being different than the rest of the world, and now we want to be just like them. It's mind-numbingly stupid.
But the tariffs aren't reciprocal.
No.
They're punitive in many cases. And
punitive to Americans.
Well, and to other countries. He's imposed tariffs. I mean, first of all, it's hard to know because it changes every day, and then it gets delayed, and then it gets imposed, and then we got 48 hours and this is going to happen and it doesn't happen. And then the other thing happens. It's hard to know what, you need guys like Scot to track all this stuff, but they're not reciprocal because he has imposed tariffs in a number of cases on countries that don't charge us tariffs at all, or he imposes tariffs on that are much higher than these other countries impose on us. So, I agree with Tim that we just shouldn't just sit there and let other countries impose tariffs upon us. That's where you use American economic might to force the tariffs down or eliminate them. So you don't just, announce, here's this chart and we had this formula and everybody's got tariffs and it's all, unfortunately for Trump, it's all operating under this phony notion that it is bad to have a trade deficit. With a trade deficit doesn't matter at all.
Right.
So it's,
trade deficits are not an indicator that we are getting screwed.
And I keep thinking of Mary Catherine Ham's brilliant analogy that she runs a continual deficit with trade deficit with Bojangles. She gives them money and they give her chicken. So she's constantly in a deficit with them. So that's how the world economy works. So it's, if you want to, if Trump wanted to go around and, if he wanted to stick it to China and to Russia, I'm all for that. But he's sticking it to our allies, and it's hurting us. And now these tweets that they've been sending out of, oh, look at the $150 million we raised. Isn't that brilliant? No, it's ridiculous because that came out of the pockets of Americans.
Right. And here's a good example of that. Yesterday, Caterpillar, who is a fairly large employer here in Georgia, and they're headquartered in Texas, but they may as well be a Georgia company. They hired so many people here, announced for the first time they gave their investors an annual guidance for how much tariffs are going to impact their bottom line this year. And they're saying anywhere between 1.3 billion and 1.5 billion. And let's be clear, it's cost related to tariffs. It's not just the tariffs themselves, although probably the bulk of that $1.5 billion at the top end is the tariffs themselves. That's money they have to pay to be compliant. And they said they expect to face those incremental tariffs in the next quarter of up to $500 million, $500 million of it in the next quarter. But the next sentence is, its new CEO said the company will be able to offset the impact. But what does the offset look like? You want to guess? What
Fewer employees.
Cost reductions is one of the things they can employ. When cost reductions looks like laying off your neighbor. It looks like pay cuts or reducing output or automation, which removes people from jobs. Fast tracking the use of AI for some jobs. Replacing people. Cutting the workforce. That's what cost reduction looks like.
Yeah, and Scott, the other thing that people miss about all this is, I've got a friend who's in this steel fabrication business. He only ever buys American steel because it's up to now has been cheaper,
right,
and better quality,
right,
for the things that they want to do for their business. He's getting hammered because the law of supply and demand kicks in, and when there is fewer foreign goods to buy and American goods become cheaper, people switch to that, driving up the price. And people who don't understand economics can whine and moan and complain about, gouging. It's not gouging. Go read some Thomas Sowell, and you'll understand the law of supply and demand.
Right.
And when there's more demand, the price goes up. That's how it works. So it's driven up the prices of American-made goods too.
And that's one of the things that we saw in certain industries is that has artificially inflated demand is stockpiling before the tariffs kick in, because a lot of these tariffs have not kicked in.
Yes.
Some of these, he's pushed them off, and he said, we're not going to, we're giving them till August. We're giving them whatever the deadline is. It's kind of arbitrary and all over the place. But he continues to move things around. And so before the tariffs really kick in, these corporations that were sitting on the ability to do it went and stockpiled the stuff ahead of the tariffs. So they can ride out it. They can outrun the tariffs for a short period of time. That's another thing that could have happened with Caterpillar. But one of the other things they can do is just eat it. I think that there's a 0% chance that they just eat $1.5 billion this year. I think it's closer to 0 than it is 1%. And then
they can only eat it for so long.
Right.
People can only eat it for so long.
And the other thing they can do is pass it on. They can embed it into the price of the goods that they're selling, and the end user will end up indirectly paying the taxes for the tariffs. And that's how they can offset. Those are their options.
And that's right. And that's always how it was going to end. That's always how it was going to be.
I get this feedback a lot. The thing that Tim Bryant said to me, where he called it un-American. Well, you might as well have taken your middle finger and put it right between my eyes and held it up to my face when you said that. Okay, Tim, right? But this argument that we have to be like everybody else when our economy is the world leader, the largest economy in the world, and you want to be like everybody else, you want to adopt their policies, maybe for a sec, take a step back. America is exceptional for a reason because we don't do this stuff. And this idea, like somebody sent me a screen cap of the Chatham County GOP bragging about how $150 million were collected in tariffs.
I guess it's billion, right?
Billion, sorry, 150 billion.
Early. Yeah, 150 billion.
$150 billion collected in tariffs. Where did that money come from?
Right.
It came from
Has it been used to reduce the debt?
No.
As a matter of fact, has it been used to cut taxes?
No.
On
there's been talk of doing rebate checks for the people who have been negatively impacted by the tariffs.
Yeah. And I get 5 texts a day saying, click here to claim your $5,000 Doge check. So, yeah.
Gee, I just look at this. Look. This is a bigger problem for me right now as part of my struggle is there are things Donald Trump does that I like. I said on this podcast just a few weeks ago, I was never more glad that Donald Trump was president of the United States rather than Kamala Harris with how he handled Iran's nuclear capabilities. People don't hear that. They hear me talk about tariffs and, oh, he's just got Trump derangement syndrome. But when I say I liked that how he handled Iran, I like that we don't have boots on the ground there. I think it was a really well-handled situation. He showed the world our military might. On full display. You mess with us, we'll speak softly and carry a big stick. I love that. I loved it. But I there is no place for me because I'm not tribal. Right? The people who are tribal say, oh, you're not Republican. Or from the other tribe, you're just saying that because you're. What do we do? Where do we go from here with that?
Well, right. I mean, that gets to Erickson's, part of his message that you read. I think a couple of things. Most Democrats do not want to destroy America. There are some out there who fundamentally want to change what America is and what America's about.
Who think capitalism's evil.
Yes, there are some. The Democratic Socialists of America, among them. That dude running for mayor of New York, right?
Great example.
There are those out there. Most Democrats don't want to destroy America. They want to do different things. They want different policy prescriptions to attempt to address the problems that we have.
Having a good authority, they just want to love their neighbor, Buzz.
Right. I think it's important for Republicans to remember that. The same thing, the flip side of that is Democrats need to understand that most of us, we don't want a fascist regime. We don't want, cramming down the Christian religion down people's throats.
I don't want an all-powerful executive branch.
No, we don't want that.
As a matter, I sued over that.
Yeah.
Right. I want us to return to regular order, and that means 3 separate branches of government, each doing their jobs.
Yes.
I just throw a wrinkle at you. Mike Lee tweeted recently, last 48 hours, that Donald Trump should be allowed to do recess appointments.
No.
And it felt to me like the kid who's running the pizza shop who wants to close at 7:30 p.m. because he doesn't want to do the work.
Yes.
If the Senate's not going to pass bills, they're not going to pass bills. It's the number one thing.
Or appoint or do the hard work of working an appointment for all the crap they gave Mitch McConnell. That dude knew how to get a president's judges and appointments through the process and into their post.
Exactly.
Right.
So we might as well not have a Senate because you're not doing anything. You got a paycheck and a title. Congratulations, Mike Lee, who I usually love. Mike Lee.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Mike Lee is another one who has become more about what zinger how can I own the libs on Twitter, as opposed to rolling up, because it's so much easier to do than to. He's a smart, witty guy. He can own the libs all day long. Drop a bill. Fix the logjam in the Senate.
Talk to your colleagues about moving the nominations through.
Yes.
Yeah. You guys are talking about recess appointments as if Donald Trump's going to be president forever. You're not going to like this when
President AOC would ram those recess appointments through and use this as precedent, right?
Just think about that for a second. What would it look like if AOC was president and you were saying the same thing? You would look like egg on your face all the time, always.
Circling back to tariffs, the reason that tariffs there's lawsuits going on, and this whole thing might come to a screeching halt at some point soon, because it's not going well thus far for the administration, because Trump declared an emergency out of the blue and used that as his pretext to impose all these tariffs by himself. President AOC would
do the same thing
and impose a Green New Deal upon everyone.
Yeah, because the climate crisis.
A climate emergency.
Right.
Yes. So, and the Congress has not had the guts.
That's what the Democrats always tell us. If we don't do this, people will die. So everything for them is a moral emergency.
Right. And they're laying the groundwork for that. That's exactly what they're doing, because Congress won't stand up and say, Mr. President, if you want to impose tariffs, then have one of your allies drop House Resolution 1 and that imposes this tariff regime on the world. You cannot just do it yourself. The president is not a unilateral dictator.
I think that lawsuit, if I was going to predict, I think it's going to get tossed, or the president's probably going to win, because executive discretion is really what is in play there. The legislature, or if the non-delegation doctrine is saying you cannot delegate this type of authority, that will be interesting too. But I think there's a lot of case law that have to be undone saying Congress can. It's just that the executive branch can't go beyond what they were allowed. There's one other piece of news this week. I haven't talked about it because it was like the most lackluster thing. It's the last topic for the night. Anybody want to guess? If you're sitting in your car right now, driving down the road, or you're watching on YouTube, you have this playing in the background. What was the big news event of the week that Scott hasn't mentioned yet, Buzz hasn't talked to you about yet? Can you guess? Did you get it? Buzz, what is it?
Derek Dooley.
Is that his name? I thought it was
Senate.
Vince Dooley's son. That was his ad. I'm Vince Dooley's son.
Yeah. Well, sure. Why wouldn't you?
He's running for United States Senate.
Yes.
The most lackluster kickoff of a U.S. Senate campaign I've ever seen in my life. Tell me I'm wrong. Were you excited by it?
I was in the hospital when it happened, and I was groggy for a while.
You didn't miss a dang thing. It was an ad. It was video. It was almost as much time on the screen of his father as it was him.
Well, of course, he's kind of, because there's huge support.
I'm not saying I won't vote for the guy.
Yeah,
I don't have a candidate in the Republican race for governor right now, or for U.S. Senate either. But if you haven't run for office before, you don't have a record, you got to impress me. And your bar's higher. It just is. I was not impressed.
Well, it's early. We'll see.
Yeah. He has a lot of time between now and when I actually got to pull a ballot to make up my mind, but I got to see more.
But I think the field is set. There may be some minor folks jump in, but I think the field is set. So it's Collins versus Carter versus Dooley. That's the race.
Carter, Collins, or Dooley.
2 spots in the runoff.
So yeah, I mean, and names that are familiar to Georgians.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that Buddy Carter had any type of relation with Jimmy Carter, but Carter is Carter in Georgia. It's a name. Dooley and Dooley, Collins, and obviously Mac Collins.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are. This is who we had to choose from. Who are you choosing? One other thing I want to do before we go. There is this criticism of Geoff Duncan that confuses and befuddles me.
Yes, me too.
Especially when the people who make it are people who look like David Shafer and Josh McCoon.
Yes.
And and look, there was a time I was walking through the Capitol where I got mistaken for Josh McCoon. So take that for what you will. He and I shared a similar body type when I was in office. I have since lost weight and have taken my health far more seriously, and I grew a beard, and I'm bald.
Josh has lost weight.
Right? And these days, I get confused for Josh McLaurin way more than Josh McCoon. But that being said, I say this in good humor, so yes. I don't say this mean-spirited. But one of the things that they continue to rail on is that Geoff played minor league baseball. And
that's an insult. And
right.
I mean that as an insult. Right.
Right. And we were hanging out with some friends, and I pointed out, look, I don't understand how David Shafer and Josh McCoon are the ones making this argument, because I don't think I would pick them for my dodgeball team. I said, if Burt Jones wants to make that argument, he played college football. Josh, I think Burt Jones has the ability to kind of poke fun at that. But even though he only played college football, he didn't make the NFL. I could see how, if I were drafting a dodgeball team, I'm picking Burt Jones I would draft Burt Jones.
Stephen Root was a major character in Dodgeball, the Underdog Story, and he's no Geoff Duncan. Let me just put it that way. I love Stephen Root. He's one of my favorite actors. He's not.
Right. I would pick Geoff Duncan before I pick Josh McCoon or David Shafer to play on my dodgeball team. And that was the point. And I started down this road today. I was like, what would it look like if we did a fantasy draft of a fictional dodgeball league made up of Georgia politicos? So here's what I want to do, right? If you're interested in participating, I want you to drop a comment wherever you listen to this. And I want you to tell me you're interested in participating in the Peach Pundit Georgia Political Dodgeball Fantasy Draft.
All right. How many players? I'm going to have to go back and rewatch Dodgeball and Underdog Story.
Yeah, you're getting
how many players per team?
You're getting into minutia.
Okay.
We'll figure that out down the road. We'll model it on the roster of Dodgeball the movie. Okay, whatever they did, we will follow the same rules as Dodgeball the movie, since it's sort of influenced by that as well. And we will do a fantasy draft, and we'll see if Josh McCoon and David Shafer get picked. And we'll see what happens. We'll just see what happens, and then maybe we can figure out a way to do a video simulation, like a video game type of thing, where we give people different. Anyway, I'm getting really into the weeds. If you're interested in participating in this fantasy draft for a fictional dodgeball league, let's see what we can do. We'll see what we can do. Let's make this happen. If you're interested, comment below wherever you're listening.
Can we pick team names?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, you'll get more points.
Creative team
names.
Okay.
Like I would love to see like the Dickie Peaches or the J Moore Strawberries or the Coffee County Stolen Elections.
Yeah. The possibilities are endless, Scott.
Mark Davis's voter list.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of, yeah.
Yes.
One last piece of actual news. Right before I came on, I did see the announcement that we have an official entrant into the Republican nomination for Secretary of State, Tim Fleming. He has a kickoff event Thursday. The Special Committee, Blue Ribbon Committee on Election Process, will meet on Friday in Cedartown. His event's Thursday night, Cedartown. I don't have any other comment, just sharing the information. Anything else you want to do before we go?
Well, Scott, I'll just say about your dodgeball thing. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for you.
I'm so excited. Last week, or maybe actually first couple of weeks, because Patreon makes it hard for me to figure out who's paying to be a Patreon. Their user interface is rough. I have failed to mention Pike County Commissioner Ken Pullen, one of our former colleagues in the House, who is also a Patreon. So special shout out to Ken. Apologies for not mentioning you in previous weeks. I regret the error and blame Patreon. So, but he is on the People Who Rock list again. Lawton Sack joined this week, so we're excited to have Lawton on board as a Patreon. Thank you, Lawton.
Yeah.
And the rest of our list: Sam Thomas, Jordan Reed, Shannon Ferguson, Jeff Cobble, Hank Burnham, Ryan Purvis, James Hall, Colin Martin, Tony West and our friends at Americans for Prosperity, Robert Lee and our friends at Lee 6 Media, Stuart Wilkinson, Ron Daniels, Mike Buchert, our anonymous contributor who wants you to learn more about the Alzheimer's Association, Bo Brennan, Ryan Graham, John Vestal, Reed Powell, Brett Harrell, Justin Wright, Bethany Ballard, and Bill Werkheiser. Thank you all for being Patreons to the podcast. You can be a Patreon by heading on over to patreon.com/peachpundit. Sign up for any one of those tiers. We'll put you in the chat and you can interact with all of your friends or new friends or maybe even enemies. Just keep that part to yourself. If you want to buy merch like what I'm wearing tonight, I've been sporting the Peach Pundit baseball trucker cap or a t-shirt with a snarky saying like I'm wearing here. I also have a very cool one that I have yet to get in the mail that says "Make Republicans Conservative Again" with a nice image of Ronald Reagan on it. Go check out the merch shop. Thank you for listening to Peach Pundit Podcast. Peach Pundit Podcast is Buzz Brockway and me, Scott Turner. We appreciate your time. Please like, subscribe, share. We'll catch you next time.
Go Jackets.